I was late for something and I was kind of coming around the corner and I bit it so hard. And it was when I had already injured my abdomen. So I was like, I'm laying in the snow and the ice, just like swearing at myself.
The struggle is actually where the most growth lies. Like how do I flip my perspective to think, what can this teach me instead of what is this taking from me?
What's up, Todd? AKA T Money.
T Money in the house. What a Pete.
So when we record this thing, I have to send Todd a link, and he joins me, and he decided to give his name for this recording T with the money sign. So he's T Money for this episode. So in setting up this podcast, I was so excited that I was going to create this this little studio and have it set up for filming as well. So I have my logo behind me, and then I have just black sheets that I bought at Walmart to like capture the sound and to make it all look semi-professional. And I just came down to to talk to you, and it smells like cat pee.
Oh, jeez.
And I was like, what is going on? And I looked at this curtain that I set up, the sheet, and part of it like goes from the kind of, there's like 6 inches of it that's sitting on the floor. Mm-hmm. And notice I don't say my cat, I say my wife's cat, because she had it before we met. Peed all over this thing. Wow. Like, there is so much cat pee right now just surrounding me as we're having this conversation. And I'm still absolutely loving having this conversation.
I was wishing I could see you on Smell-O-Vision.
Yeah.
That would be great.
So even surrounded by the aroma of cat pee, I am incredibly grateful to be having this conversation tonight. Which brings me to the topic that I want to discuss tonight, and that is gratitude. Ooh. We have been spending an immense amount of time in my classes, or I have been forcing this on my students. We talk about a bunch of different gratitude-based concepts. One of them being that you don't need happiness to have gratitude, but you do need to have gratitude to find happiness or purpose and fulfillment. So sometimes I hear people say, well, I can't find anything to be grateful for. I'm not happy. Well, it doesn't start there. It starts with the gratitude, and the happiness or the purpose and fulfillment comes after that. And I think that is really cool. There's also a saying by Aesop that says gratitude is what makes whatever we have enough. And I thought that was a really cool concept to think about. And there's just been so many times in my life that I can think of that gratitude has really helped pull me through various different types of struggle. And that's something that I've been really intentional about over the last bunch of years to really focus on. So, so that's kind of the basis of our discussion today is anything related to gratitude, particularly in this, this schooling struggle podcast, how we school our struggles with gratitude. And I just totally sprung this on Todd without any preparation, which is part of what we do, just having some conversations. I feel like now I've been talking for 3 straight minutes and Todd hasn't said anything. So,
wow, was that 3 minutes?
3 minutes, 17 seconds.
Time flies. You've got a timer even. Where to begin? I think you know what I'm really grateful for? The fact that I get to do this impromptu, because that's like some of where my superpower lies, is just being sporadic. And I've seen that throughout my life, and I truly appreciate that, because I hate having to think about things and then like lose my train of thought and say, oh, that's not what I wanted to say. So to go in the vein with that, I'm grateful for that. So thank you. I used to think gratitude was complete garbage. I'm not going to lie. People would say, oh, you need to use gratitude. You should be more, you should be more happy, or it's kind of like you said, but you should have more gratitude for things. And when you're younger, at least when I was younger, I thought, well, I don't really have much to be happy about, right? Like, a lot of the things that are going on, when I was in the middle ages of my life, didn't exactly make me happy. And
so when you say a long time ago, mm-hmm. you didn't believe in gratitude, like how long ago? Like a year ago, like 6 years ago, 12 years ago?
When I struggled with my parents during my, 12 to 16, I thought that it had no utility. And then I remember thinking that for a very long time, until probably about 5 years ago, maybe. And it's funny you bring this up, because now I use it every morning. I use gratitude like as the way to start my day. But what I have found is, especially in my professional life, is if I'm having a hard time getting started with something, I make it a point to go out and get little nuggets of gratitude, or give them, I guess is the best way. And that like puts me on the road to positivity. And then the rest of my day is just like paved with gold. Like if I can wake up and do acts of gratitude, it's fantastic. So yeah.
Yeah, this conversation about gratitude, I'm not exaggerating when I tell you I could talk about this for 12 straight hours, and I'm actually putting a little pressure on myself to say what I think would be really useful, in a 30-minute podcast or however long we do this. So I'm going to try to take a little pressure off myself and just kind of let it go as it goes. But the other day we were in class and I did this activity with my students called Ask Me Anything. And, I asked them to keep it appropriate, but they could ask me anything at all that they inquired about me or my life or my perspectives on stuff or my thoughts. And we got into some really cool, they asked some amazing questions. But one of them was, Mr. D, what's the biggest challenge you've ever faced? And in thinking about how I was going to answer that question, I shared with them my high school experience, which was without question the most challenging time of my life so far. And when I think about that, the most challenging aspect of my life, how much of my gratitude comes from that particular struggle, like how much I learned about myself, how much I became equipped to overcome adversity, all these different things. And I think it's so ironic that the things that we find most challenging are oftentimes the things that can produce the most gratitude within ourselves. And oftentimes not till something's taken away do we appreciate it. I often say once something is expected, it's no longer appreciated. And even after being treated the way I was treated by the people that really wanted to accept me in high school that weren't interested in being around me, I really now feel the value of being around people that make me feel valued. Even today, I was just talking to a student, and I mentioned something about always getting in her way when she's trying to work out. I need to just give her some space. She's like, no, Mr. D, I always enjoy hearing what you have to say. And I just said, you just made me feel really valued right there. And I'm really, really grateful for that. So, so much of that struggle, that was a little bit of a tangent, but so much of that struggle of trying to be accepted by people who didn't want to accept me in high school really has kind of yielded gratitude later in my life now, which I think is really, really cool.
How did that manifest? I'm curious to know, like, I mean, you've talked about this episode a few times, so I know it's very important to you, but is that something that you immediately like withdrew from in the gratitude bank? You were like, oh, wow, that's a interesting situation that just happened to me, and now I should focus my gratitude, or like, how did that exactly play out?
Yeah. I mean, much like you, in my middle school and high school years, I was a very, very, I didn't think gratitude carried any load. And I don't know if you were like this or not, but I was incredibly ungrateful, like just not grateful for anything in my life. I just expected it. And that was what it was. And the whole thing about my challenge of high school, once I left high school, I really didn't think much about it. Like I didn't carry it with me. I wasn't super sad or upset about it. In fact, I finished high school really, really strong because I found a peer group that really did value me and made me feel loved. And I just kind of let that go and moved on and didn't really much think about it. And then as I now, like within the last 3 years, doing a lot of self-reflection about why I'm driven to do certain things and why I act the way that I act and why I feel the way I feel and why I want to make people feel the way I want to make them feel. I've had to kind of go back and process some things that have happened in my life. And so it wasn't until really recently when I learned about the science of gratitude, the people who are most fulfilled and purposeful in their life report the highest levels of gratitude or take time or make time to engage in a gratitude exercise each day. And I started to like be deliberate about that I started to think about, oh, wow, like maybe one of the things that makes me a strong teacher is I had a really crappy high school experience and I don't want my students to have that. So it wasn't until, when I say recently, like the last 3 years, I really started to dig into that. And if I were to start a podcast 5 years ago, it certainly wouldn't be about schooling struggle. And I probably wouldn't even bring this topic up because it just didn't resonate with me until I really started to do a deep dive. about this stuff recently.
I have another
I don't
one.
know if that did
I
that
got,
answer your question?
I,
Was that even
well, let me go a
close?
little bit further. So let's go on the fringes of that. I was thinking while you were talking about, like the whole theme of this, right, is like schooling struggle. And I know you place a lot of emphasis on how the audience, or especially how the audience of your students, I guess, or the people who are closest to you in the school setting, what the utility will be for them to get out of it, right? And so when I think about the story you just told, or even gratitude as a whole, and how we both kind of have a similar story, and we realize its strength later in life, right? And this kind of the idea is here is sharing our struggle and what that is. I wonder if you have thought about, or if you maybe use it already. How could somebody who came from a place like us that didn't see that until later, like, begin to work on seeing it as something that's useful, right? Or like, does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like
And I think
how could you have seen
that's
it earlier, right? And then put it to work.
yeah. I think that's a big theme of kind of what we're trying to achieve with this podcast is to let people know, like, in the moment, if you're able to embrace that struggle and know that you are able to take this crappy thing, if you want to look at it that way, and turn it into an opportunity to be a better version of yourself, like, that is totally possible. And this last 9 months when I was dealing with this abdomen injury and was kind of laid up and wasn't able to exercise the way that I wanted, like, I kept kind of trusting in myself that if I had the mindset that this opportunity was looked at as an opportunity and not just a thing that I had to deal with, I could learn a lot from it. And I don't think without that injury, I probably wouldn't have started this. I wouldn't have engaged in many of the conversations that I've had. I did some other things with my time. So yeah, it's a great question. But I think if we can start to realize that the things that happen in our life aren't happening to us, as you say, but happening for us, that we can take that, whatever that experience, instance, situation is, and turn it into a lesson that we can apply later down the road.
Yeah, I like that. It's, for me, it's been like, and I can't put a finger on it. That's why I was asking you. I was curious to see if you could find it within yourself. But there was definitely a moment for me where I realized the struggle is actually where the most growth lies. Like how do I flip my perspective to think, what can this teach me, instead of what is this taking from me? Like that's really, or why am I spending my time stuck here, right? And then I think once I was able, but I don't know what switched that bit for me. It's interesting to think on that.
Yeah. So, how long have we known each other? 4 years? 5 years?
Maybe a little longer. Yeah.
You were the person that introduced me to the book by Ryan Holiday, The Obstacle is the Way. And the obstacle isn't in the way, it is the journey, right? So you were the first person to really start to introduce that to me, which is a big part of the reason why I wanted to have these conversations with you. As I say, when I called you that day, you're my number one draft pick. So I didn't have this mindset of struggle is a good thing, or struggle is a beneficial thing, or struggle is a chance to be better. I just looked at views as struggle as a really crappy thing that I need to kind of work my way through, and just said, tough times don't last, tough people do, and just kind of push through. But now I think tough people take the struggle or the challenge, the obstacle, and become forged in better ways because of it. Yeah, I wish I had a kind of a deeper answer to it, but now just trying to remind myself, okay, like, this is not good or bad, it is. So now what can I learn from it? How can I move forward from it?
Yeah, good point. Yeah, I remember reading that book, and I remember I read a whole bunch of books of that same type in a very short time, kind of the Stoicism stuff. And I lose a lot of what I read or listen to, even. Like, it's just funny how it's out one ear and then the other people are like, did you read the book? I'm like, oh, I think I remember that book. But yeah, it's there was another book, the name isn't coming to me, but I remember in that book was there was a story about, I'll have to find it. I can't remember what it was, but it was knowing that within that struggle was the lesson for that person. And there, I can't remember exactly how it was put, but it was like, I know that there's a lesson there because I feel this way. Right. So it's that awareness, like, oh, this sucks. Why am I feeling this way? And then flipping it and saying, there's something here. There's something that this is going to teach me, and being able to accept that, I think.
Yeah. So getting back to the gratitude piece, right? Like, what if every time we were faced with a challenge, little, like tiny little stuff or big life monumental stuff that we're like, oh, I can be grateful for this. And that just seems so oxymoronic, right?
Yeah.
To have this thing that's so challenging and so brutal in the moment, and to be in the moment and think, oh, this could be good in a way. I could learn from this in a way, is a really, really hard piece to digest. And then to apply in life is even harder. But
Yeah.
I really do believe with every fiber of my being that it's very, very possible for us to embrace a mindset of this thing is happening right now. And in a way, it's a really positive opportunity for me to learn something, to do something, to be something, to serve somebody, whatever that is.
Yeah.
And so when I think or I talk about gratitude, yes, I can think about, my health and my relationships and, all these amazing things that I'm blessed with. But can I also think about the challenging things that are going on and how those I can be grateful for those as well.
That's well said. I heard something earlier. It's along the same line. Somebody was saying, "Oh, see, if somebody was told a story in this to this individual, and the individual was like, oh, it was about their dog. Their dog was sick or something, and he said, well, that's great because your dog's going to get a chance, an opportunity to get better, and it's kind of exactly in line with that. Like, but how do you look at like the adversity and think, oh man, this is so full of opportunity. Like, I can't wait to get in there, right?
So I feel like I've been doing enough work that I'm able to do that with the little stuff right now.
Mm-hmm.
Like, just a little kind of day-to-day stuff that's annoying or inconvenient or a pain in the butt. And I'm like, oh, like I can manage this stuff, but it's with gratitude. Like I can, I'm getting closer on there, but like with the big stuff, I'm not tested as often. And I don't know if I'm as equipped to deal with the big stuff. If, God forbid something big were to happen to somebody that I loved, and, how I'd be able to take that and move forward with it.
Yeah.
So
easy to be blinded by like the monolithic life events, right? Like things like you said, like you don't even see it coming, and then you hope that you're like well rehearsed, but you never really know till it's trial by fire.
Yeah, stuff you can't truly prepare for.
Yeah.
But I do think that gratitude is a major piece of moving closer toward. So I believe that our goal in life is purpose and fulfillment. It's not comfort. It's not convenience. And how can I use gratitude to move closer to feeling more purposeful, more fulfilled? And I think there's many, many ways to do that. I can connect with others with gratitude. Like we do a gratitude card practice where we each pick someone in the school and write a gratitude card to them. And, that fills me up writing the gratitude card to someone, knowing that they're going to get it and read it. And, it might make their day. So the gratitude piece also builds connections. Gratitude is proven to lessen stress on the mind and the body. And we know that the less stress we have, the healthier our mind and our body is. So there's this like deeper connection with gratitude than just, hey, I'm grateful because it's not raining today.
Right.
And I'm constantly searching for ways that I can use this gratitude to get closer to that purpose and fulfillment piece.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very interesting to think about how, and I think we've talked about this before briefly, but, and I'm sure you know it from your research, but I think gratitude is one of the best things because it benefits everyone, right? Like anybody in proximity of gratitude is going to get something out of it. So
true.
I feel good because I gave you some, you feel good because you got some. Everybody who's standing around, if you give it in person, like that's just great. I should do that. And then they're compelled to do it. So yeah, it's so simple, but it's so seemingly hard. Like I remember when I first started doing it a lot, I was very shameful at first. Like, oh, like I shouldn't say anything, even though I'm really, I really feel good about that. And then once you practice that and you sharpen it, it becomes so easy to wield. It's just like, yeah, I got you. Here's some gratitude.
It's so true. Yeah. I feel it in my heart so strongly that I'm communicating to people how grateful I am. Whether it's the person bagging groceries at the grocery store or, someone that's really gone out of their way to help me. But I almost feel like in a way I am feeling so grateful inside, and I'm communicating that almost maybe I'm doing it too much and people aren't seeing it as genuine because it's like, oh, he's always just grateful, so no big deal. But that's not for me to worry about.
Yeah, right.
That's for them to worry
Yeah.
about.
I think that if you lead by example, though, it goes a long ways, especially like in the work you do. It's at schools, right? Or I mean, I play a bit in school. I'm not a teacher, so I'm not there as much. But I do notice, like earlier today, there was a girl at CrossFit who has never done a burpee in her life, and she's over there just awkward, like I don't know how to. I was like, just throw yourself on the ground and get back up, right? And so the workout's going, and I look across the room and I could see her, and I give her one of these. I'm watching you, right? And she gets down and then she gets back up, and I'm like, yeah, and I give her the thumbs up, and she's just like, she had the mask on, but she's just glowing, like I could just see it. It was like, but that's just so simple. So when I think about this whole thing, I think the answer has become clear. It's that in order to give it, I think that it's when you feel that discomfort that you should just do it more often. And then I think the other side of it is kind of how you feel like, oh God, I just do this all the time. Like I should maybe I should cool it down a bit, but I don't think you should. I think that's the starting point for people who are looking to do it.
Yeah, and like I said, a couple minutes earlier, I really do believe that is, the starting of the rolling of the snowball. Like once the snowball gets rolling, it just gets bigger and bigger. And if we can try to start that positive snowball or that snowball purpose of fulfillment, or whatever it is you want to call it, like gratitude is such a great place to start.
Yeah.
And kind of 3 little practices that I've put into place that I really love. One is, there's a bright red picket fence in front of a house on my way to school every day. And it's kind of out of place and it just sticks out. And I decided that one day I was going to, every time I drive past the red picket fence, that's going to be a reminder of me to think of something that I'm grateful for in my life. So each time I drive past the red picket fence, once on the way to school, once on the way home from school, I try to just think of one thing in my life that I'm grateful for. And the really funny thing about that is they were doing some work on the fence this summer. And for some reason, for the first time ever, I looked across the street and I'd driven past that house thousands of times. And I never once ever looked on the other side of the street to see this other house. I was like, oh my gosh, how long has that house been there? Well, it's a really old house. It's been there just as long as that red fence has. But I'm always just focused on the fence. And I know that's just something I always look at when I drive by. So pick something on your route or whatever it is that you're going to see every day, and that thing is a reminder to think of something randomly that you're grateful for. And then I'd like to ask somebody that I am close with, whether it's my wife, my daughter, a student, a friend, whatever, at least once a day, hey, what's something that you're grateful for, so I can hear what it is that they're grateful for, because that inspires me to think of stuff like, oh yeah, you just said that. I never would have thought about being grateful for those little plastic ends on my shoelaces that don't fray, so I can put my shoelaces through the shoe holes, right? Like, and then just the classic notebook next to the bed and 3 things from the day that I was grateful for before going to bed. And those 3 practices have been incredibly helpful for me, and to the point now where So I heard the definition of focus is paying close attention to the detail while always keeping the big picture in mind, and to be focused on this journey of purpose and fulfillment for me. So when I feel myself getting tense, getting stressed, getting frustrated, getting angry, I'm now to the point where I can default to quick Pete, think of something that you're grateful for. And that totally mitigates my, the heart elevating feelings or emotions. I'm not saying it squashes them, but it's super, super helpful. And it can be totally unrelated. Like I can, get an offender bender and think about, the day my daughter was born. Like just think of something quick that I'm grateful for. And that's been super, super helpful for me with keeping the big picture in mind about little stuff that can frustrate me along the way. So I'll default to those little gratitude practices when I'm feeling frustrated multiple times a day. And it took a long time to practice that, but now it's starting to become automatic, which is really kind of cool.
Yeah. Where did you, that's interesting. Cause where did you hear about that, or did you just
No, I thought about that one on my own. I just thought about like every time something challenging happens, I can, so I'm an incredibly competitive person, and I'll use that competitive fire in ways that, I don't know, make it sound like I'm a good person, but I'm just really, really competitive, and maybe I'm not as good of a person as it seems. But so I'm like, all right, dude, like you are going to try not to get frustrated. You're going to maintain a calm demeanor. So when challenging thing happens, how are you going to deal with that? And when the thing happens, it's called the stimulus. When the thing happens and then we take action, whether we respond or react, response being a positive thing that moves people forward, a reaction being a negative thing that doesn't help the situation. There's a time, right, in between the stimulus and the action. And what we do with that time pretty much determines how that situation is going to go, or maybe even on a bigger scale, like how we are as people, because we're all good when things are good, right? So when the challenge comes, how do we respond? So between the stimulus and the action, what am I doing with that time? And I realize the most productive use of that time for me is to think about something I'm grateful for in that moment. And that has been super helpful for me.
Wow. That's pretty helpful for me too. Like I've come up against those moments where I think I come at it from a different angle, because all the books I've listened to, and like I'm trying to put the name to it, cognitive behavioral therapy. That's what it's called, CBT. That's exactly the process what you're talking about. And there's a couple different kinds, and I might not be right on it, but it's basically taking the stimulus, right, and interrupting it from the habit loop of what you would normally do and replace it with something different. In your case, gratitude. But I've played with that before, not like formal training or anything like that. But I've noticed that I can play with different outcomes in my mind, or I can hold different things in the mind space and say, well, if I did this would be different, and it wouldn't be the typical thing that I would do. But I've never really thought about injecting gratitude as the start point of that. And I think that's something I'm going to play with. It's really powerful.
Yeah, I remember one of the times that I noticed that I used it was last year. So the fitness center, the space that I work in or that I teach in, is about 100 yards from the school. So it's like a 1-minute walk from the school. And I have duties both inside the school building, and I teach in the fitness center. So I go back and forth 4 times, one way or the other, and then double it up for 8 trips. And one day it was just super icy. And I was super psyched that I had this streak of never falling on the ice. And the way the drainage goes, where my school, this particular pathway is not good. So the name of my school is Hartford High School. So we call it Lake Hartford. And it just, the water just kind of forms in a big puddle and then just freezes over. And once it freezes over in Vermont, it's there for the rest of the winter. And I never fell on that piece of ice, and I had so much pride. And I was late for something, and I was kind of coming around the corner, and I bit it so hard. And it was when I had already injured my abdomen. So I was like, I'm laying in the snow and the ice, just like swearing at myself, going, oh my gosh, like you just totally set your rehab back. And like, I was so frustrated. And then all of a sudden I was like, nope, like I get to go home and play with my daughter today. And that just totally fixed it. And then I like stood up and kind of brushed myself off and walked where I needed to walk. And I was like, oh my gosh, dude, like you just totally mitigated that frustration by using gratitude. Like that is so cool. Do that more often.
Yeah. I'm going to try that for sure. I'll report back because I always am looking for that magical, like, it's like if you do like a heavy clean and you do it perfectly right, and it just magically appears in your shoulders. Like, how did that happen? I'm going to try that because I hope that's how my experience with that playing with that space has always been. It's like, whoa, that really worked. But now I feel like there's it's a mind trick.
Yeah, with me with that clean, it's normally because I was breathing incorrectly and I blacked out while the weight was coming up, and I woke up when it was on my throat.
Right, my chin hurts. I'm like, oh.
That's awesome. That's one thing you can do. Yep.
I think that's cool. I think that's a good point, right? Like, let's emphasize that. Like, use gratitude as the point of inflection to play with that, right? I think that if I would have learned that a long time ago, I think that would have been epic. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, there's just so many ways I think that we can implement gratitude in our lives to just live out a better day each day. And it's hard for me to try to put it in words to share that other people can use it. But because articulation is not my strength, but part of the reason why we embracing this podcast is so I can try. Yeah. And I appreciate you listening.
No, I think it's fantastic. Yeah.
Good stuff. Well, speaking of working out, you got to go, go do your thing. Yeah. Go get it on.
Will do. All right. Is that
Always a pleasure, brother.
Yeah, for sure, man. I'm going to be thinking I'm going to let you know how this thing works for me because I'm excited to go. I'm going to try it as soon as I get to CrossFit. It's going to be great.
Hey, I am grateful for this conversation. Peace out.
Talk to you later, Pete.
Later, brother.
See you.